It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Kyle Benedict as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Kyle Benedict. Today we are talking holiday safety, holiday fire safety specifically. Thanksgiving right around the corner. Then we have Christmas and just a ton of holidays this time of year. And joining me today is firefighter, paramedic, and also the spokesman for the Chino Valley Fire District, Rob Zizweta. Thanks for making the trip over here, Rob.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So this time of year, a lot of stuff to kind of cover just regarding safety and things that people should be aware of this time of year. You know, a lot of people have family coming into town and a lot going on, a lot of hectic just times for people. Do you guys see an increase of calls in the holiday season about this time of year?
We do. This is always a busy time. But before I start, happy holidays to you.
Yeah, you as well.
And to all the listeners. And just like we deal with in the summer seasons with the wildland fires and the increased risk of fire threats there, the same thing plays in the wintertime. So this is always a busy time of year. As a matter of fact, in the last 5 years, Yavapai County, the majority of their house fires and residential structure fires have happened at this time of year.
Wow.
So between the months of November and February have always been very busy for us. And it all plays into the climate we live in and the cold snap that we've been feeling lately.
Yeah, I mean, you just think it's, to some people, probably amazing to hear that. You know, in the winter, cold months, you have most of your fires. You would think here in Arizona, the summer would be, I mean, all summer you just hear fire, fire, fire. Yep. And then usually we're talking about wildfires or, you know, wildland fires. But the fact that here in the winter months, you know, I guess we just have to be a little bit more vigilant.
Yeah, it's we always have to keep our awareness level up, you know, and I know the summer seasons is always what we are always talking about, wildland fire season and the threats that we face, but there's a lot of things that we could do in the winter months too to keep us safe as well. So.
Okay, so next week we have Thanksgiving coming up, right around the corner. So, and not just Thanksgiving, but even with Christmas and all that stuff for throughout the end of the year, we have people cooking, families coming over. What are some of the main things just surrounding, let's start with cooking safety. Okay. With Thanksgiving right around the corner, what are some of the main safety things there?
Well, one of the biggest things, you know, the more people you gather in your house and the more time you spend in the kitchen, obviously the increased risk there. One of the things that we like to talk about is definitely having smoke detectors in your home, keeping those things. You know, we just had daylight savings time, and although we're in Arizona and that doesn't affect us, it's always a good reminder to change batteries in your smoke detectors. We also like to, you know, say maybe pick someone's birthday in your family, and you always change batteries at their birthday in your house, so that you always keep your smoke detectors functioning properly. And you know, if you test them monthly, that's something we'd also recommend, and it goes along with the manufacturer as well. Keeping a fire extinguisher in your kitchen close by, making sure that you have those precautions in place. It's just like if you were burning weeds in your backyard, we make sure that you have a hose ready and you keep a safe distance from the house. Well, it's the same thing in the kitchen. Keep an extinguisher handy, keep it ready, know how to use it, and have a preparation for that just in case. Okay,
and I'm sure most of those have step-by-step kind of instructions right there on it.
Yeah, nowadays fire extinguishers are very simple to use. It's a simple, you pull the pin, you squeeze the trigger, and you aim it at the fire. So it's very simple to use. So we do offer fire extinguisher classes at the fire station. So if you ever have a question, you can always come by the fire station. We'd be happy to teach you how to do that.
Okay, and as far as cooking and some of the things to be aware of just when you're around the stove, you know, one thing I think a lot of people you hear about, and I'm sure many people have kind of experienced this, grease fires.
Yep.
What's the best way to handle that? I mean, I know it's happened to me a couple times. You see a little flame there, and you automatically, you know, freak out a little bit just on fire.
And a natural instinct would be to put water on that, and that would actually cause a bigger problem. So you want to make sure that's where the fire extinguishers come in handy, because they're actually rated for grease fires. So, you know, a common household or kitchen appliance extinguisher will be rated for that type of a fire, so it will properly extinguish it. You know, there's lots of other things you can use if you have flour nearby to smother. What you're really looking for is to create that barrier between the flame and the fuel. So those are the kinds of things that help with that. So.
And no water.
No water on a grease fire.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure for a lot of people, that's your first reaction.
Right, absolutely. Yeah,
okay.
And it's also good to make sure that when you're dealing with grease and, I don't know whatever you're cooking, but make sure that you keep your kids away from the stove. Make sure, because if they can reach up and grab that handle and pull the grease, it causes some severe burns, and we've seen that happen in the past where we've seen some kids get injured. We've seen adults get injured the same way. So just make sure that you're very careful with that. The other thing with cooking is I think it's become a big trend of frying your turkeys. And so now they have turkey fryers that they sell at most convenience stores, and make sure that when you're doing that, you're doing it outside, not near the home. Make sure that you have a good safe distance. You never want to put a frozen turkey in a big bucket of grease. It'll create a big mess. Make sure that you turn the flame off while you put the turkey in there. And you can look for, if you look on YouTube videos and things, and there's plenty of demonstrations on the proper way to fry a turkey, because we've seen a lot of outside fires that become house fires caused from frying a turkey.
Yeah, a lot of people, I'm sure, like you said, it's a big trend.
It is.
And you have people doing it for the first time. And
and I don't know if you've ever had one, but they're delicious.
Oh, they're amazing.
Yeah.
They definitely are amazing. So, okay, so we kind of covered some cooking safety there. Portable heaters, because it seems like we do these calls where we talk about people, and you hear, don't heat your home with your oven.
Yes.
I know a lot of people might think that that's okay. Obviously you don't want to leave your oven on and keep it open, but
right.
That's something that can be extremely dangerous. And why is that? Well,
anytime you have a heat source, you're also producing carbon monoxide. And so if you're using something that's not meant for heating a room, it's not going to be properly filtered. You're not going to have that proper source of heat that's sustainable inside of a residence. So anytime that you're doing something like that, if you don't have a CO2 detector, those carbon monoxide detectors is what will detect that gas, because you can't see it, you can't really smell it, but you have to be aware of it, and those CO detectors is what will alert you to any kind of a problem. A lot of times the people start feeling nauseous or sick, dizzy, anything like that. It's not often will people alert that to carbon monoxide poisoning, but once it gets beyond that point, it actually becomes a very dangerous threat to you and anyone in your house. So,
and I'm sure just opening it up and pulling stuff out of the oven, that's not enough to expose you. Really,
no, it's really not enough to expose you. But if your home is closed up and it doesn't have the proper filtration, homes are built to filter out that kind of stuff. And if you've done some kind of remodel or anything and it hasn't been up to code, then that's when you really come into those kind of problems.
Okay. What about some just portable space heaters, for example? And that's a big thing, heating your home. What are some of the things to remember to be aware of with portable heaters?
Well, you want to always make sure that you're using it according to the manufacturer. You can read it in instructions. It'll tell you what it's rated for and the kind of room it's rated for. A lot of times you'll see these portable heaters that are pulled out of a shed or in the garage that have been sitting there. You want to make sure you inspect those cords, make sure that they aren't frayed or cracked or broken, anything like that could then cause an electrical spark and cause a fire in your home. You want to make sure you're keeping any combustibles away from it. Don't put clothes on it. Wait, and when it's not in use, and then all of a sudden it kicks on because it has a thermostat, and then you cause a fire with that. So you want to make sure that everything stays clear of it, make sure that the electrical cord is in proper use and that it's being used according to its rating.
Okay, great. Well, we got to take our first break. When we come back, we're talking holiday fire safety with Rob Zizweta from the Chino Valley Fire District. When we come back, we'll talk about Christmas lights, Christmas trees, touch on all kinds of things. So that's coming up in Countywide. We'll see you in a couple minutes.
Let me ask you a question. When you think of the American Legion, what comes to mind? Is it our volunteer programs that let wounded veterans know they're not forgotten?
I'm here to make sure our heroes know their sacrifice is not forgotten. I am the American Legion.
For nearly 100 years, the American Legion has been our nation's leading advocate for veterans and their families.
I am the American Legion.
This is today's American Legion.
To learn more, visit legion.org.
As an American, it's hard to hear that we have a serious hunger issue in our country. And as a parent, it's even harder to hear that 1 in 5 of our kids struggles with hunger, especially when billions of pounds of good food are wasted every year. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide billions of meals to families in need right in your community. Visit feedingamerica.org to support Feeding America in your local food bank. Together we can solve hunger. Together, we're Feeding America.
How are your girls?
Stacy's good. Maggie, she's just gotten so angry. I don't know any of her new friends. And we found out she's gotten into drugs.
It's probably just a phase.
Most people don't know what to say about drugs.
Yeah, she'll outgrow it.
But we do. Visit us at drugfree.org.
Welcome back to Countywide. I'm Kyle Benedict, joined with Rob Zizweta. He's the spokesman as well as firefighter and paramedic for the Chino Valley Fire District. Real quick, a good number for some more information to call the Chino Valley Fire District, 636-2442. You can also go to their website, chinoazfire.com, just for more information on this and really anything else. If you have questions about anything, as Rob mentioned before, you can go there and talk to them about, how to use your fire extinguisher. I'm sure if you need tips on, anything with the turkey or deep frying a turkey, any of that good stuff. So kind of moving outside here, lights, Christmas lights, obviously really popular. What are some of the key reminders with Christmas lights?
Well, a lot of times we'll see people that are using Christmas lights that they've used for years. So anytime you're doing that, you want to make sure that you're inspecting those cords. It's a live power source, and anytime that you're using that, if it's not properly maintained and not up to code, then you can cause those problems. So make sure that you're inspecting those cords, make sure that the plugs are secure, make sure that they're waterproof tight. There's a lot of times where people will have their plugs in and then they leave them on the ground and it rains or snows, and you have those live power sources in water and it could create an electrical shock. So you always want to be careful with those types of things. Keep them up, keep them high, and make sure that they're well maintained.
Now, a lot of people use nails to kind of hold those up, or they staple them with a staple gun.
Yeah.
If you do end up puncturing or tearing part of the cord there, is that done? Does that
I would get rid of it at that point. And really, it's not worth trying to save it and having any kind of a threat that's attached to your house. So.
Okay. And what about LED bulbs? I mean, that's something that seems to be kind of really popular.
Yes.
Now you see those walking around the stores. It's LED bulbs.
Yeah.
What's the thing with those?
Well, the good thing about them is that they burn much cooler than regular standard bulbs, so they don't create as much heat, as much friction. The other thing is they do last a lot longer. Of course, with that, they do cost a little bit more, but it's a good investment and something to have. They are a little bit brighter at nighttime, so if that's what you're looking for at your house, we would always recommend something like that.
Okay, great. Moving inside, switching to extension cords, something that very useful, especially when you're talking about holidays and trying to get decorations. Maybe you have an outlet here, you're trying to get it across the room or something.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of things. We were talking about this last year. I was just kind of blown away with some of the hazards that can come with extension cords. What are some of those?
Well, electrical fires is a very common cause of residential structure fires, and the biggest problem with those is usually it's due to an overload surge of electricity. So if you're using cords that maybe aren't rated for as much power that you have plugged into them, you cause that oversurge, and then it causes an electrical problem in your house. And those fires they're very common. They're very hard to detect that you're even going to have an issue until they actually happen, and they usually burn so quick that you cause quite a bit of damage to your home. So one of the things that we recommend is that, for one, is that you're using electrical cords that are rated for what you're using them for. Make sure that you're not overloading circuits. Make sure that we always recommend using power strips as often as you can, and the reason is they have surge protectors in power strips, and they're much easier to maintain. You can shut them off. Nowadays, power strips will even come with timers on them, so if you're using them for Christmas lights, you can have them come on for a few hours at night and then shut back off on their own, so that if you fall asleep, you don't forget that they're on and you don't have that that power in your house always going. So power strips is always what we would recommend because of the safety factor that are built into them when they're manufactured.
And then just like the Christmas lights, inspect them for any cracking. Or
same thing, yes. Yeah, make sure that they're in proper use. That if you've had them stored in a shed or something like that, make sure that you're looking over them really well.
Okay. What about Christmas trees? Everyone loves Christmas trees, live Christmas trees. Something that, you get the smell, you get the whole experience of going out and picking one or cutting one yourself. Christmas trees, what are the main things with those?
Well, Christmas, that's one of the best parts of the season, especially living up in the high country. We have access to more live trees. We can go out and cut our own. We can go to any of the lots throughout our communities and purchase a good, fresh, live Christmas tree. They smell great in your house. They do create a very bad hazard in your home, though. Especially the earlier you put it on, the quicker it's going to dry out. If you think about a tree out in its environment, that's in the ground, it always has that moisture to it, so it stays fresh. Once you pull it out of that environment and put it into your warm home, it's going to dry out much quicker. You surround it with Christmas lights, it's going to dry out even faster. If you don't have it continuously watered, if you look at a Christmas tree that's live, when you put it in the pot, you fill it up with water. If you come back and check it the next day, you'll see how much water it's taken and how dry it's already become. So that gives you an idea as to how much water you need to be giving that tree. They will dry out very quick, and they become basically a large candle in your home. If you have any kind of heat source near it, the lights, that's another reason we would recommend that you inspect those lights, because if they start to burn hot on that dry tree, you can easily ignite that tree and then causing a big problem. Again, if you look at YouTube videos, there's plenty of demonstrations out there of Christmas trees actually starting on fire inside a home, and you'll see how quickly it develops into a large structure fire. They're very dangerous, and we always recommend that you're taking a lot of precautions with that. Making sure you have extinguishers close by, making sure you're inspecting those lights, keeping water on the tree, and then as soon as the holidays are over, you need to get it out of your house as soon as you can, because the longer it's there, the more of a problem it becomes. Okay, so are we talking water it daily, a couple times a day? Yes, I'd say daily, yes. Okay. And one thing, people, you kind of envision this scene of a Christmas tree next to a fireplace, and boom, you got your Christmas, scene that you have right there, that typical one. Yep. With fireplaces, what's some of the things with fireplaces? Well, with fireplaces, a lot of times what we get, especially this time of year, is because the weather has changed so quickly, people think, oh, well, I have a fireplace, I'm going to go ahead and use it. Maybe they haven't used it in quite a while. Last winter it wasn't that cold, so people may not have even used their fireplace last year. So now you're looking at 2 years since the last time they've used it. If it hasn't been properly inspected, cleaned, maintained, you can cause a lot of problems. A lot of times it'll be as simple as they thought they had opened the flue, but it was actually stuck closed because of the ashes behind it and everything, because it hasn't been properly cleaned, and then they start that fire and it fills their house up with smoke. So that's a very common call that we see this time of year, and it can be easily fixed just by making sure that you have someone inspecting it and cleaning it. There's plenty of people out there that will come into your home and do chimney inspections and everything. So with fireplaces and, say, wood-burning stoves, one thing year in and year out, we hear about fires from ashes. Yes. What's the proper way to dispose of your ashes? Well, if you think about it, when you're pulling those ashes out, although they look cool and everything, if you just put your hand over it, you can feel that heat source still in there. So a common mistake we'll see is people will just go in there and they'll clean the ashes out real quick, and they'll go and put the ashes in their garbage can because tomorrow's garbage day, not thinking that they're still heated and that they could still cause a fire. And so we'll get calls for garbage can fires, and if that garbage can is next to the house or in the garage, it can create a garage fire. So the proper way to store those and keep them out of your home is you put them in a metal container, preferably with a lid, and you make sure that you put lots of water in there just to keep it stirred up. And if you put something in a metal container and go back a couple days later and you fill the side of that metal container, you'll feel that it's still warm. Those ashes will really maintain some heat in there, and if they get stirred up, it just creates more and more of that heat. So. Okay, well, we have to take our second break. Chino AZ Fire, ChinoAZFire.com for more information. 636-2442 is the phone number. This is Countywide. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
So they say it's a man's world? I don't see anybody's name on it.
While they were doing their thing, we slowly changed ours.
Today, women can do anything men can do. And there's one thing we're even better at.
If you don't fix them, sparks from dragging tow chains could cause a wildfire, and that could be scary.
Hi, Smokey.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, did you know 2.4 million loving cats and dogs in shelters and rescues need our help to find a home? Let's go to theshelterpetproject.org and meet if you are in a shelter near you. Harlow, oh, she's one great listener who loves to hear all your stories. My kind of cat. Cerulo is a sweet, goofy boy who's eager to please. Sounds just like another dog I know. So go to theshelterpetproject.org, search your local shelters and rescues, and go for a cuddle with your next best friend. Adopt.
Welcome back to Countywide, talking holiday fire safety with the Chino Valley Fire District, Rob Zizweta in. You wanted to touch on a couple more points with disposal of ashes.
Yes. Well, like we were talking about fireplaces and the use of them, it creates a big problem. I know people around this area love to have their fireplace. A lot of times ashes is one of the first causes of a fire in this time of year. Anytime that you're storing them, keeping them outside your home and away from any kind of structure. You know, it's very common that people will take those ashes, they want to get them out of their house, and they'll go put them on their back porch, or they'll put them on a wooden deck or near something. A lot of times we see them, they're placed next to the pile of wood that they use for their fireplace. And all it takes is a little bit of a breeze, which we all know in this area we get plenty of. Mm-hmm. So it'll stir those ashes up, brush up against the house, cause a fire, and no one will even know it's happening until it becomes too late. So we just like to make sure to remind people that when you are exposing those ashes, you're keeping them in a metal container, you're keeping them away from your structure, away from anything that's combustible, and that you're making sure that you stay safe.
Okay, great. Well, a lot to cover there, and I appreciate you coming in and talk about all that.
My pleasure.
And yeah, hopefully everyone has a safe holiday season, right?
All have a safe holiday.
Okay, great. Well, again, for more information, you can go to phone number 636-2442, website for the Chino Valley Fire District, chinoazfire.com. That's going to do it for today's Countywide. I'm Kyle Benedict. We'll see you guys next time.